We need to really be aware of our premises. The ones that don't serve us, we need to get rid of. And now premises that I have that are positive premises is that I can have it all. That something spectacular is going to happen to me every day. You know what's incredible is that it does. Amazing things happen to me every day. That I'm deserving of love and everything coming to me. And I think a lot of people don't realize that they are worthy of that.
Welcome to the Miracle Academy. This is your host, Scotty Cooper, and this is where miracles are expected.
Welcome to the Miracle Academy podcast. I'm your host, Scotty Cooper. Today, this lesson is going to be a little bit about the branches of philosophy and how philosophy enters your life. One of my mentors and my father's mentors, Dr. Patrick Gentempo. Dr. Patrick is incredible, and he's the most eloquent person I know. And he's really brought me a lot of clarity in my life, and I've studied a lot of his work. He's got a newer book out. It's called Your Stand is Your Brand, which if you want me to review, go ahead and comment and like on it on this video. It's a really incredible book. I would highly recommend reading it. But nonetheless, a lot of this is stuff I've learned from Dr. Patrick Gentempo. And like I said, he's been a mentor to me. And these are a lot of things that I learned from him that I've passed on to my team and a lot of people I talk to. And I want to just kind of pass some of this knowledge. But once again, if you really want to deep dive into it, I would suggest reading his book and following a lot of his different programs that he has. It's really incredible. But nonetheless, we're going to talk a little bit about philosophy. So a lot of times when people think of philosophy, they think about the guy with the crazy hair that's all like really far out and not like a real world applicable kind of person. And that's how I thought of philosophy for a long time. I took philosophy in college a little bit and it was okay. But my senior year, I actually took a Star Trek and philosophy class, which was kind of cool. Basically, we would watch an episode of Star Trek and then talk about the philosophy of that episode. And it was nice because you were able to apply it to the real world and space world, but nonetheless, it was real. Anyway, I learned most of this once I was out of college, studying with Patrick and learning a lot of this. But nonetheless, with philosophy, there's a lot of ways it applies to your life. And for me, the way I see it is really just thinking. And what I've noticed is a lot of schooling doesn't teach you how to think. So that's why I'm making this video, is to help you learn how to think. And critical thinking is a thing that's really important. And I think that when you take these steps and this methodology, it helps you really understand what's going on with the world around you and why you do the things you do. But the first thing that I'll start with philosophy is the idea of a premise. So a premise is a belief element that's driving your choices and actions, whether you know it or not. So the thing is, a premise can be positive or it can be negative, it can be neutral. Normally a premise has been into your mind because of some type of mother, father, teacher, or preacher, or some sort of authority figure. So it means that someone told you something when you were normally a child, or even an adult, that led you to believe something. So an example would be, like for me when I was a kid, I really didn't like the idea of money. I thought that money was evil because someone told me that, the money is the root of all evil. And that was the thing I held on to for a really long time. And as I got older, I realized that premise was taught to me by someone that had no flipping idea what they were talking about. And I thought they did, because the thing is like when you're a fourth grader, a fifth grader seems like a genius to you. When you're a young kid, any adult seems like they know what's going on. And then as you get older, you're like, I don't know anything. And anyway, my premise changed after I realized that I went through this methodology, which I'm going to get to, that it really helped me see what I truly believe. So some of my examples of positive premises would be all men are created equal. Be the change you want to see in the world. The power that made the body heals the body, which is on our door. God wants you to be rich. What my mind can conceive, I can achieve. The thing is that there's a lot of premises lead a lot of your actions. The other part to it too is that when you have contradictions in premises and philosophy, Ayn Rand says that your contradictions lead to destruction. And the size of the contradiction is in direct proportion to the size of the destruction. This would be an excellent time to pause and to think about that again. I'll say it again slowly so you can write it down. So contradictions lead to destruction. The size of the contradiction is in direct relation to the size of the destruction. Once I heard that, I was like, wow, that really changed everything for me. I realized I really need to start looking at things that are contradictions in my life, and I've got to snuff them out and get rid of them. An example of a contradiction we had was at our old office. We had a sign that said that we shared office space with another doctor, and it said neck and back pain center. And what's crazy is that that's what we're showing the world, and anyone that knows me or has been in our practice knows that we are not a neck pain and back pain center. Yeah, we help with those things, but that's not why people come here. People come here for freedom. They come here to change their life. And it was such a contradiction. It's like, here I'm showing the world this, but what's inside is completely different. So that was a big moment for me. And I started from that point on to really be aware of my premises and realize what contradictions I have. So kind of going back to philosophy and how this all works. The branches of philosophy and the different parts I like to think about is these simple questions. So the first question with philosophy is, what do I believe? Next one is, why do I believe it? What am I going to do about that? What does that look like? And how am I going to bring that to the world? So we'll go through each one. First one, what do I believe? So for the example of when I was a kid, thinking the money was the root of evil. So what do I believe? I believe that the money is the root of evil. And why do I believe that? Well, I don't know why I believe that, because I heard that somewhere. Okay, is that a good enough reason to have that belief? I'm like, no, of course it's not. So then I had to change that first part of what do I believe? So then I changed it to, oh, well, it's not just money, but it's the love of money that's evil. So I was like, okay, so why do I believe that? I was like, oh, well, people that love money, that's wrong. But then as I got older and I realized that when I change someone's life and they pay me for it, I love that. I love that exchange. I love the fact that I get to do something for someone that they'll never be able to repay me in their life. And they try to give me money to repay me. But there's no way. Like, what I did for them is so grand and so grandiose. There's nothing they can ever do that's going to equal that. And I'm good with it. And but that exchange is something that's really powerful. I was like, no, I love that. That's wrong too. So I went back to what do I believe and changed it again. And I realized really the point that person originally that tried to teach me this, what they should have said was the lust for money is the root of evil. And at that point I realized, because lust is never something that's good, right? If you lust for money or for anything, it always comes from a place of lessness, like a place of like, you really shouldn't have it. If you lust for it, you probably shouldn't have it. And that was really powerful for me when I realized it. So like, what kind of people lust for money? People that, want exchange for not doing something. So for instance, like a drug dealer, whether it's a pharmaceutical company or someone that's just dealing drugs somewhere else, that's kind of a lust for money. You're not really bringing value to the world, you're making things worse. And that would be lust. So I changed that first, what do I believe? So now it's like, why do I believe it? Because I know that even exchange, or I love exchange, it's just when things are not an even exchange that's wrong, and that's what I think could be evil. And then the next one is, well, what do I do about that? Well, then if I know that just the lust of money is evil, then I know I'm not going to lust for it. That if I really want money, then I've got to do something to create value for another person, that I'm worthy of that exchange. And that's when a lot of things changed for me once I started doing that. The next branch is the aesthetics, and I might be messing up the order of the fourth and fifth branch, but the aesthetics is the artistic representation of what that looks like. So it's, what do I believe? Why do I believe it? What am I going to do about it? Now, what does that look like? So for me, if I'm now looking to add value to other people, what does that look like? It means every conversation I have with another person is me focusing on how I can make their life better. And it's not necessarily just for an exchange. It's not just so I can make money. It's just because that's now the way I look at the world. I look at the world and how can I make it better? How can I do something for someone where they'll never be able to repay me? The next part is politics, which is, how do you bring this to the world? When I hear politician and politics, I don't really typically get excited for that word. But in this case, what I mean more is just, how can you bring this to more people? And for me, I know that I could either have this conversation one-on-one with one person, or I could have it with 3 people behind the camera and then multiple different camera angles to document what I say, that then can go to a lot more people. And that's really the point of a lot of this, is how can I bring this to the world? So those branches, each one has the question: what do I believe? Why do I believe it? What am I going to do about it? How does that look aesthetically? And how to bring this to the world? So the biggest thing with this and with thinking is looking at your premises and finding what premises are serving you and what are not. And I've had to really look at a lot of those. Some examples I had written down that, some false beliefs that just drive me nuts are like, don't bite off more than you can chew. If it feels too good to be true, then it is. I'm sorry, and you can bleep this out. That's the stupidest freaking thing I've ever heard in my life, right? It's so self-limiting, you don't even realize it. Like, some of these ideas that people have are so stupid. And it's like, get out of your own freaking head. And it was someone that, like, had no idea what they were talking about. I told it to you. It drives me nuts. And so for me now, I look at everything. And even, like, if you watch my video with Glenn, and he talks about, like, your words shaping your reality, one of the things he said that was so powerful was that if you make something a problem, you call it a problem, it will be a problem. If you call it a circumstance, it's no longer a problem. You can maneuver around a circumstance. So one of the examples he used was, someone might say, like, oh, I was coming to work today, but my car broke down. And so this person was acting like it was a problem. And what he said to them was, basically what you just told me would be similar to, I was late to work today and I had pancakes for breakfast. It's like, okay, great. Glad you had pancakes, but, like, why is that an issue? It's not. Don't make it an issue. And I was just having this conversation with one of my interns the other day. I was telling her, like, dude, like, don't make it a problem. Just make it something you got to figure out. It's figure outable. It's my mother-in-law likes to say. She says everything is figure outable. It's one of her favorite books, but that's a thing we always talk about. And by the way, not my mother-in-law, it's my mother-in-love. So kind of a cool thing. Nonetheless, I think that when you really change things from problems to circumstances, it just becomes something you can go around. It's like if you're on the freeway and there's a car that stopped in front of you, you can either choose to also put your hazards on and stop behind it, which makes no sense, especially in Southern California, or you could just shift lanes and go around it, right? That would be the thing you would do on the freeway. Why don't you do that in your life? Anyway, kind of looking at philosophy and how it affects the different parts of your life in these premises. So I've kind of said it a lot. Like, we need to really be aware of our premises. The ones that don't serve us, we need to get rid of. And now premises that I have that are positive premises is that I can have it all. that something spectacular is going to happen to me every day. You know what's incredible is that it does. Amazing things happen to me every day. That I'm deserving of love and everything coming to me. And I think a lot of people don't realize that they are worthy of that. And a lot of people, they don't know that they're worthy of healing, right? So many people come to us that they're like, they still feel bad about something they did as a child or a young adult. And it's like, dude, you're 60 years old. Like, let it go. It has nothing to do with you anymore. Like, it's okay. Just let the poison of it out of you. And you are worthy of healing and love and everything that you really want. Anyway, as I was saying, philosophy, if you kind of think of it like a pyramid. So like, let's imagine Chichen Itza, which I've been to before multiple times. And you can look at this. In the bottom of the pyramid is going to be your philosophy. So this is going to be the thing that's like, what is your foundation? So your premises are within your philosophy. The next level is your purpose. Purpose comes out from your philosophy. So what you believe and why you believe it, and what you're going to do about it, and how that looks, and how you're going to bring that to the world, then creates your purpose, right? So for me, my purpose is to connect people to your truest self. Purpose of Cooperstown Chiropractic is to serve God by serving and saving mankind through the gift of chiropractic, right? To get to that purpose, we had to have something below it that created that. So for me, I realized that my philosophy was that the world is asleep. A lot of people are asleep and they don't know what they're truly capable of. So knowing that, why do I believe it? Because I see it all the time. I see so many people that have no idea what they're capable of. They've been programmed to think a certain way because of their mother, father, teacher, preacher, or TV, or media, or any authority figure that doesn't know what they're talking about has led them to believe a certain thing about themselves. And I've seen that, I know that, and so then it's now my mission to wake them up from that and say, take this out of your head, you don't need it anymore. It's not serving you, let's get rid of it. So philosophy's first, then your purpose. And those are more of the causes, right? The next level is your psychology. So what I mean by that is kind of your way of thinking. Now that you've created your philosophy and your purpose, your psychology is like what you think about that. And your psychological experiences are all rooted from your philosophy and from the things further down. Once you change your thinking, then you can change your procedures. So what that means is what you do on a daily basis. In a business, so say with Cooperstown, our philosophy is that the body's healing is self-regulating, and that the power that made the body heals the body, provided that there's nothing interfering with it. So we believe that you're good enough, you're great enough, really. You just have got to have it unlocked. So that's our philosophy. Our purpose then becomes that we serve God by serving and saving these people with chiropractic. So then, because of that, we think a certain way, right? So that's our third level of our Chichen Itza. Then the next one is procedures. So what things do we now do because of that? And that becomes really important. So the way we talk, the way we say that things are circumstances, the way that we don't identify with a certain condition. So a thing you'll hear me say a lot if you're in the practice is a lot of people say like, oh, I have anxiety, or I have depression, or I have high blood pressure. If you had something, so say you're sitting in front of me and you're sitting there with your wallet in your pocket, and I say, hey, can I have your wallet? More than likely, unless you really like to share your stuff, you're going to say no. And I'm going to say, why? I'm going to say, because it's mine. Okay. So because it's yours, you don't want to give it away, right? Say yes. Okay. So if you don't want to give it away, I'm assuming you're going to keep it, right? Yeah. Okay. So if you identify with the high blood pressure or the depression or the anxiety, you can't give it away. I don't want you to give it to me, but you can't get rid of it at all because you have it. So from now on, you've got to change the way you talk because your words shape your reality, right? The video with Glenn. I tell a lot of people to watch that video. But the thing is that if you identify with your condition, you can never get rid of it, right? So what I tell people on that first day that they're here, that they meet me, and I hear them say that, I stop right in their tracks. Whatever we're talking about, I like, okay, put on the brakes. This is what we're going to talk about. And it's changed a lot of people, because then they realize there's something, they are so much greater than the condition. They're now something separate, and they can actually get rid of it, give it away. That's an example of one of the procedures that we do, right? Because we have this focus, we know this, and we're not indoctrinated into the idea of a pill for a problem, that health comes from above down, inside out, not outside in, that your body's not just the sum of its parts, and that if we cut out an organ or add a medication, that's going to save your life. And now there are times that on crazy circumstances, yes, that will save your life. But in this country, that happens way too much. That are the non-emergency situations. And because of that, we have those procedures in place. The next part, the top of Chichen Itza, which is the most sacred part, is prosperity. So once you have your philosophy and your purpose, your psychology, then your procedures, then you can have prosperity. What's interesting is that when most people have a problem with the sacred part, the tip top, they look to do something like, oh, well, if I want to be prosperous, then I've got to change my procedures. I've got to change what I do. It's like, well, if you don't have the right foundation, you're never going to fix that. You got to go way deeper. And a lot of people don't go deep enough. And they don't look at their premises. They don't look at what they believe, why they believe it, or what they're going to do about it. You know, one of the premises I now hold, and this is a conversation I had with an intern the other day. We had someone that was in a lot of pain and was not terribly kind. And one of my interns was kind of upset about it and was kind of sad. And I told her, I said, you know, look, this person is dealing with a lot of crazy stuff. And there's even more things that this person's probably dealing with that we don't even know about. And they've been having this physical condition, but they've also got this emotional trauma for a long time. When they act in the way they act, it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with themselves. And, you know, I read the book, The 4 Agreements, and one of the agreements is to not take things personally, because you realize that everything that another person does or says is a reflection or a projection from their inner self out. You know, you go to the grocery store and you have someone that blows up because their brand of ketchup's not there, and they start yelling at the person that's working. It's like, wow, I didn't order the ketchup. Like, that has nothing to do with me. That person was upset about something else, and this was just the thing that they could get mad about. So that's a premise I hold now, is that, okay, well, when someone's upset, then I don't need to get upset, because I know that it has nothing to do with me. I'm not involved with this at all. It's that person's own stuff that they've got to deal with. And that's what I was teaching my intern. And it allowed her to see, like, okay, this isn't a personal attack. Like, I'm able to get past it because I know has nothing to do with me. So that's an example of a premise that I've kind of changed more recently. The one thing I did want to add to kind of when I was talking about my example of like the love versus lust for money, in this premise that I had one of my other mentors teach me, is that money is just an accelerator. What that means is that money accelerates your purpose or your mission. So if you have bad premises, bad philosophy, and a bad purpose, it's going to make that go faster. So if you're like a evil scientist guy that wants to take over the world, more money is going to be able to get you that laser gun that can take over the world, right? But if you're a good person, more money allows you to do more good. A prime example is Mother Teresa. You know, she went around serving the world, loving and serving. She had a lot of money at her disposal. There's not a lot of nuns I know that can afford to have a private jet to take her to different areas of the world. But the thing was, her story and everything that she believed in was so powerful that people wanted to give that to her so she could further her mission. That's an excellent example of how having money was able to spread her mission more vast than it was ever imaginable. That was just the kind of part I wanted to add in there too. But I think too, like I've said multiple times in this episode, you got to ask yourself, what do you believe? Why do you believe it? What are you going to do about it? What I really found was helpful for me was looking through different parts of my life, like different categories, and asking these questions. So what's my philosophy? So I already talked about the philosophy around money. What's my philosophy around health? What's my philosophy around relationships? What's my philosophy around friendship? What's my philosophy around a career? What's my philosophy about anything? And when you can nail those down and then find like, and that's kind of like part of the homework you have to do, is be able to like go through all these different categories and start, asking yourself, even like spiritually, what do I believe? Why do I believe it? And socially, there's like so many different categories you can look at. But, it'd be great for you to comment like, okay, you know what? I went through this philosophy and I got rid of this premise. Like comment a premise that was like a negative one and then follow up with like, here's my updated premise. And I love to hear those. It's really cool for me. I really enjoy that. So some of those other, I was looking at those different areas that I like to look at. I have it written down there. But let me know if you liked this episode, you liked the idea of the branches of philosophy, or if you want more of these type of videos, comment down below. Let me know that this is what you like. Also like and subscribe, because I really appreciate that. But, once again, if there's premises in your life that don't serve you, it's time to get rid of them. This is your sign. If you're asking for a sign, here it is. Get rid of those negative premises. Let's change your life. Let's change your philosophy. Let's change your purpose. Let's get you to prosperity. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Miracle Academy. Once again, I'm your host, Scotty Cooper, and this is where miracles are expected.